throughout the show we're talking about animals and thunderstorms and fireworks. Is it normal for our animals to get scared of thunderstorms and fireworks?
Fear is a normal response to a scary situation, but for a lot of dogs what they show is more than fear, they show phobia. So they're showing an excessive response to something. So, for a lot of dogs and cats, and probably a lot of other animals, they do find storms intense. They're noisy, they smell different, they sound different. There's, environmental change that they detect that we don't. And to be initially a little uncomfortable about that is normal, but what normally happens, or should happen, is that pets realise that this is actually not a bad thing. They live through a storm and nothing terrible happened, and the next time it comes around it doesn't seem quite so bad and they get completely used to it. For some animals what ends up happening is that they have quite an abnormal response to it, and with time they find it more and more scary. So instead of realising that nothing bad happened during the storm, they started predicting that things are going to get worse and worse. And that's where you're looking at something that's more of a phobia, which is an abnormal response.
For those animals that are showing signs of that phobia, what types of things would indicate that to their owner?
There's a range of things. A lot of people are aware that when there are storms or fireworks that their dogs look scared. They might come to them for comfort. They might try to hide somewhere. Cats particularly will tend to hide. Dogs will often either try to hide or to try and get close to their owners. For some dogs that are just feeling a little bit worried, that's the level they do, and if they're near someone or they're inside, they feel okay. For dogs that have got more of a phobia, they're going to be doing something that's a lot more extreme than that. So for some dogs, they will shake and shiver the whole time. They might be destructive, so they might be trying to get out of their back garden, or if they're in the house, they might be destroying the house. They sometimes will toilet inside when they wouldn't normally toilet inside. They might be panting, pacing around, vocalising, whining, barking, showing signs that they're really, really distressed. And that will tend to start before people are aware that the storm is coming, because dogs are aware of the storm a lot earlier than we are.
Do you find that in some cases pets might be scared of fireworks but not necessarily storms?
No, absolutely. Some pets are storm phobic and some pets are noise phobic, and some are both. For a storm phobic dog is finding the whole experience of a storm difficult, and that's a combination of what they're hearing but also what they're sensing. So, barometric pressure changes, the visual change that you get in the environment with storms, the sight of lightning, the sound of thunder. So it's a combination of sensory input that they find really difficult. For noise phobia, it tends to be just specifically the sound that they find difficult. So there are definitely dogs that are really fearful of fireworks and that will show those escape or destructive or panic behaviours around fireworks that are absolutely fine through storms, and vice versa.
Would it, you mentioned barometric pressure with thunderstorms. Do you find that pets that are a bit more afraid of fireworks is because it tends to be more sudden rather than storms, which can be a little bit more gradual?
I think that not necessarily the degree of fear, but the length of the panic response that they get, definitely. So dogs that are really scared of storms can predict that the storm's coming because of all the environmental change that happens, and so they'll be showing the start of quite significant levels of distress well before we see anything, and it may continue, that distress might continue for a long time after we feel like the storm is finished. So it's often quite a long time. They learn that those early changes aren't scary for them usually, but they predict the storm hitting. So dogs learn that when the sky looks like this, when the temperature feels like this, when these things are happening, that means a storm's coming. So they start to get quite stressed well before the storm. With a fireworks event, there's no warning, so that it just suddenly happens, and so you don't get the lead up panic, but once it starts, then yes, you can get the same level of panic and distress.
So it's more sudden.
Yeah.